Sitting in the car. This is a man's sanctuary in here. This is where we come to think at. And man, I got a lot of stuff to think about. This ICE stuff is just out of control. And really what I think is out of control is just the audacity of people. So the government's run a buck. Democrats and Republicans. Listen, I want to be very clear about this. At some point, we will have taken the trash out of the government. That's mostly Donald Trump. That's the Republican Party. That's ICE. That's all the buffoonery, all of the Trump buffoonery, and the MAGA buffoonery, all the cult nonsense. But when that's done, the Democrats must also be held accountable. And no, I'm not just talking about the Democrats that voted to fund more ICE. Not just them, I'm talking about all of them, including the so-called leader of the Democratic Party, Chuck Schumer. What a lot of people are not understanding is that even when Democrats are in power, even when some other party other than the Republicans are in power, they also do not do what's best for the people. Let me tell you something about systems for a second. A lot of people don't understand all the craziness that comes with systems. First of all, the United States government is a system. The universe itself is a system. Like the actual solar system is a system. You are a system as a human being. You run on emotions and thoughts, and since you're an advanced human, you run off of your prefrontal cortex, so you're able to reason and do logic in these things. That's a system. So your nervous system, that's a system. Your cardiovascular system, your whole body is made up of systems. Your community is a system. The city you live in, that's another government, that's a system. Your family dynamics, that's a system. And so on and so on. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how all these systems play into each other and what people don't understand about systems. Systems are supposed to support the tiniest, most basic, most helpless players in the system. For example, if we take your body and you as the unit, you as the human being, wreck your body. You drink too much alcohol. You do too much drugs. You do too much exercise. You don't give it the proper nutrition. Eventually, the cells have no choice but to maladapt, and then you start to die because the cells are the basic building blocks of you. In a country, the basic building blocks are the people. So the purpose of the government is to serve the people. That is the only true reason that you would want a government, is to serve the people. We only unite as people. The only reason we evolved from tribes and decided to do what we're doing is because we can affect survival better. We can affect survival better. But if the system that we put in place does not serve the basic building blocks of said system, then the system needs to be changed. It's not doing its intended purposes. Many corporations do not understand this either. I see a lot of people online talking about their jobs. The job market, is messed up. But also, people don't even want to go into a job because it's soulless and lifeless, and all you're doing is making money so that you can pay bills into the system, so that you can have a house that's close to your job, and a car to drive to your job, and food so that you have energy to go back to your job, right? All of it is interconnected. Everything is set up so that the system itself stays in place. But the system is what we're questioning. That's the thing in question. So of course people are tired of they're tired of self-help mumbo jumbo. They're tired of religious Jesus mumbo jumbo. They're tired of hope mumbo jumbo. Okay? since in the United States and probably worldwide, since corporations are mostly profit driven and do not actually look at the best interest of their employees, which is their basic building block, since they don't do that, this is why a lot of companies end up having people who quit. This is why the turnover is so high. So basically, what a company is in the United States, actually the United States itself is a company, but what a company is, like on a smaller scale, like a Amazon or a McDonald's or a Walmart, is they've traded the original purpose of the system. They don't actually support the system through the bottom. They just make sure that money continues to flow in. It's profit driven. But since a system is so difficult to change and challenge, because we have so many, various laws in place to protect the system so that it doesn't change, then the actual basic components, which is you as the workers, don't get what you need to affect survival. So it sacrifices the basic health of itself without knowing that that's what it's doing. This is why capitalism eventually eats its own tail. You see people get online, I've seen them, they get online, they're talking about we should stop buying stuff. This has been proposed many times. This has been proposed in the black community. We've talked about, okay, well, on Juneteenth, on this day, on that day, we won't buy anything, or we'll just go and only buy from certain businesses. But we can never seem to come together to do it. And that's not a mistake. The reason we can't do it, one, is because we're too comfortable. That's the basic reason, like the biological reason. We're wired to do what's easiest. But the other reason is that it doesn't build enough momentum. And the smaller systems, let's say in this example, there's a bunch of black-owned businesses. A lot of times these black-owned businesses don't support all of our needs, and so then we still end up having to go outside of black-owned business to then get the other needs met. Let's just make up an imaginary city. The blacks decided they want to just support black-owned business, but all they have in that community is they have like a school. Let's say they have a school and a hospital, but they don't have a grocery store. And maybe they don't have tax professionals. And maybe they don't have a black dealership for vehicles or whatever, right? There's always some component that's not complete, so you can never really make a true switch. It becomes more difficult. Another thing I wanted to talk about systems. It's not just that, yes, people are afraid to stand up to the government. Yes, people are afraid to challenge the status quo. Yes, people are terrified to think for themselves. My channel is literally about mental sovereignty and thinking for yourself. Not only is that true, but it's also true that a system in general is hard to change. Notice that you cannot grow wings just because you want to, right? Because your body's not just going to reformat itself to accommodate having wings so that you can fly. And it won't do that very quickly, that's for sure. In a larger system that's made up of other systems, right? A government which is made up of people, which is made up of corporations, right? All of which are themselves systems. It's hard to change a system in general because you depend on the system. Like I said, a lot of the stuff comes from that system. A lot of the people you hate, some people out here don't like Mexicans at all. Like, period, right? Okay, well, that's a broad category, right? Well, you're not just dealing with a binary like the Mexicans are just like one group, and then you can just like take the group out of the system and then everything's okay because you don't like them. Actually, no, these Mexicans work in places that provide services that you need. Some of these Mexicans are professionals. People in your community. You want to hate black people? Many black people, you can't survive without black people. You can't survive without Mexicans. We can't survive by taking a blanket statement and then saying we're just going to remove all of it. I'm not preaching to tell you what to believe in or anything like that. I'm just making a broader example about systems. Don't fall into the trap of arguing with me about the content of what I'm saying. The content is irrelevant. I'm talking about the structure. The structure of systems. I have to use an example. And this circles back to this concept of not thinking for yourself, not thinking critically, not thinking at first principles, not thinking existentially, not contemplating, never sitting down for an hour or two and just thinking through something. There's not enough of that going on. We love to have debates. We seem to know what to do. We seem to know all the steps. But we can't get anything done. I think one challenge is that we're not being creative enough. Yes, we probably do need to reformat the government. Right? Because here's the other... Here's the nexus of it, so to point to put it this way. We have these options. It's like, well, we either do something, we don't do something, we do a little bit of something, and like the little bit of something, we do that. That's sort of like the traditional stuff. That's like, oh, just obeying the law, that's going to vote, that's peaceful protesting, all the stuff that, that's sort of acceptable to do. But our solutions may not exist inside of the box of things that are traditionally considered to be acceptable. You can't just think outside of the box, like, okay, outside of the box of acceptability. You have to really venture into other avenues and other realms of your mind to come up with more creative solutions. Okay, so I was contemplating today let me turn this light on. I was contemplating today, a few hours ago, about what to do about the situation in the United States. You guys know I'm a deep thinker. I'm a solutions guy. I'm the guy that corporations hire to go in and turn around. They'll have a location that's struggling. I'm the guy they call to go in and fix it. I can do that very well. And I'm not saying that I'm qualified to fix the country. I'm not saying I'm qualified to fix these bigger corporations, because I understand how difficult it is to actually change a system. And it's not just that a system is difficult to change, it's also that systems themselves have very strange behavior. For example, many people can take creatine and start to build muscle, extra muscle. And then there's studies for that. And then there will also be a few people, some outliers, where that didn't happen. And then among that, there will still be people where let's say they took the creatine or whatever substance, or they took some substance into their body, and then something catastrophic happened. Systems a lot of times have very unpredictable behavior. Let's use another example. If you take let's see. Let me put it this way. Every single movement has consequences. Like, no matter what it is, whether you're thinking about something, that thought has new consequences. That literally changes the direction that you're moving in life. Just one thought. Because that leads to the next thought. One thought leads to the next thought. Some thoughts lead to new actions. Actions lead to other thoughts, which lead to other actions, which leads to other interactions with other people. And then they have thoughts. Like, a lot of people don't realize that the whole world is just a chain reaction of interactions. It's nothing but a giant chemical reaction. Your whole body is nothing but a non-stop battle of chemical reactions. That's what your body does all day long. Chemicals to make you wake up, chemicals to make you hungry, chemicals to make you horny, which then influence how you think, which then influences what you do, and then what you do influences what other people do, right? So you eat a banana, and since you're a rebellious teenager, thanks to the chemicals in your body, you're a rebellious teenager, you take the banana peel and you throw it on the floor at Walmart, and then somebody's grandmother comes in and slips on the banana peel, and then she breaks her neck. So now somebody's grandmother is paralyzed, and so now, the grandmother's son has to quit his corporate job making a bunch of money to come take care of his mother because she slipped on a banana peel at Walmart, because a rebellious teenager had a chemical reaction in his body that that made him angry. And then whatever the guy does by him leaving his job, that leads to new consequences. It's the butterfly effect. Everything in the universe is the butterfly effect. So what's difficult about coming up with a solution about what to do in the United States is that the system is so massively large. It's so stupid, gigantic, enormous large that it's not as simple as this action or that action. We remove ICE. Okay. Maybe that's the solution. I don't know. That's kind of what I've been thinking. But what happens then when we remove ICE? What's the next move that happens? Do we have enough moves planned so that whatever we do, we actually swing life into the direction that we want it to work in? And then that brings up a new question. What is the direction that we want it to move in? Because guess what? Every single human being, every single corporation, and every single government all have different ideas of what direction we want to see that go in. And we can barely ever come to an agreement on what we want. Because a lot of us, I'll just make up a number. Let's say 75% of us on Earth just want to survive and be harmonious. We want to make money. We want to have sex with each other. We want to help people with disease. We want to cure diseases. We want to help people. Let's just say we want to do something like that. Let's just say that's the mindset of 75% of people. There's still 25% of people that do not agree with that goal. They just want to be filthy rich. And in order for that to work, the system has to stay the same way that it is. In order for the concept of rich to even exist, somebody has to be poor so that they understand that they are rich by contrast. How do you ever get to a point where you have truly reconciled what's actually the best? If everybody is on Earth born against their will, existing just because we're here, we're just like, hey, I'm here, I don't know what's going on, all I know is I want to be a billionaire. Right? If you achieve that goal, well then by contrast, a lot of people are going to be poor. I guess what I'm saying here is that when it comes to systems, there are enormous consequences to everything. And I'm not using consequences in the sense like, oh, you better not stand up against the government, or you better not stand up against the police, or you better not stand up against wrongdoing. No, you should definitely consider doing that, because what are the consequences if you don't stand up to them? There's consequences in both directions. People love to say like, oh, you're going to go to jail, you're going to be shot, you're going to be killed. Jesus, you're going to burn in hell. Jesus is going to get you. All these sort of typical consequences like, oh, this is going to happen and that's going to happen because some authority says that's going to happen. But there are still consequences if you don't think for yourself. There's still consequences if you don't stand up to that stuff. This is something Jordan Peterson has mentioned this before. This concept of consequences of both directions. There's consequences to both. There are consequences to following the rules. I have a video recently where I talked about that in my shorts. Go check that out. A lot of stuff has to be in place. So I will say this. If we're agreeing that we want to do something, okay, as people, here's my message. Here's what I'm saying. Then, ironically speaking, we do actually need to come together so that we can discuss what resources and things that we have in place and what are the multiple steps in a plan, in order to get things to where we want them to be at. Because we can't just have one move and expect that one move. Because a lot of what we do is we like, okay, we'll go protest. Or this time, 1,000 people standed up to some police officer or whatever, and we saved one life. Okay, but then we lose momentum after that. It's like, how often are we going to keep standing up to something when we need to actually get underneath it and pull it up by the root and say, okay, well, We don't want to do it this way anymore. We need to put in a new system. So we do have that has to happen, and under no circumstances can that part not happen. But we can't spend forever doing that either. We can't spend forever talking about it. We need like the greatest minds that want what's best for the average person to come together so that coherent solutions are made. I have some ideas, but you know, I'm just one guy. Let me think. I got off track there. That needs to happen. Another thing that would have to happen is, and this is ironically really, really hard for a lot of people. We actually have to forgive a lot of people that we have differences with. We got all the men versus women stuff right now. We got the gay men versus the DL men. We got we have people that have committed, let's say, low-level crimes. We have people that have committed some low-level crimes. Maybe somebody has stolen from us, and maybe they're out of jail right now. Like we have our parents and our friends and people that we haven't been talking to. A lot of stuff has to be put aside if we're going to work together coherently, because what will happen is, let's say something gets going among the people, a lot of the citizens decide they want to do something. Okay, well, now we got something going. But within the new group, there's now dissension. And I guarantee you, our opponent, whoever that may be, if we decide we want to make things better, our opponent will be counting on us to have conflict within. I want to address a little bit of the individual issues that everybody's facing. Okay. Now, first of all, you're not crazy. So you see, here's one thing. People will not tell you that you're not crazy. Everybody wants you to go meditate. Okay, I do teach spirituality, so I also want you to meditate, but not because I think your ideas are wrong. I'm not saying that what you've been seeing going on in the world, things feeling off, you not making enough money, you not getting the love and attention and the love that you needed as a child, all that shit was right. You are correct about that stuff. Don't let anybody, because once you start doubting your own thoughts because the rest of the world thinks that all your thoughts are off and misguided, you're in more trouble than if you had just trusted your own thoughts. Because when you don't trust the foundation of your own thoughts because the rest of the world is gaslighting you out of them, well, then that's the definition of like going crazy. That's like literal psychosis. Then it's like, oh, the ICE is out here killing people, and I said it was bad, and so a bunch of MAGA people told me that I was a libtard, and so I must be seeing things wrong, right? No, no. Or I should say maybe. But there's no such thing as seeing things the right way. There's a bunch of different sides to every story, and that's why we can't agree on anything. A lot of MAGA is just young dudes, for example, that never learned first principles thinking, that never learned to contemplate. They've never sat down and thought about anything for themselves from scratch ever in their entire life. That is a lot of them, okay? But some of them do truly hate, I'll make a list of a few things. Some of them do truly hate black people. And they have good reasons for hating black people. I'll have to make a video about racism in the future. Very profound insights on that, okay? A lot of them genuinely hate women, okay? And they have good psychological and emotional reasons for hating women. It is their emotions too are justified, okay? A lot of MAGA really do love Donald Trump. Not all of them. A lot of them are just following the next MAGA person. But some of them are foundational Trump lovers. Okay? And they have some psychological reason for why that makes perfect sense to them. People rarely do things that does not make perfect sense to them. I forgot where I was going with that. But the correct orientation to look at the opponent, first of all, stop arguing with MAGA. Stop arguing with everybody. Debates are mostly useless unless some sort of solution is trying to be made, or unless you're trying to get to the absolute truth of something. Generally speaking, you cannot get to the truth of something unless you personally contemplate it. Okay? For example, I've contemplated the nature of meaning, and I discovered what meaning actually is. I'm not going to tell you what it is because you've done enough of that. Enough going to YouTube and the internet and your doctor and the government and Ben Shapiro and Barack Obama and everybody you like to go to try to get information from. Learn to contemplate things for yourself. Get a notepad from wherever and a pen or a pencil and start working through stuff. I might need to make a video on how to contemplate something deeply, because a lot of people know how to do that, and I'm not trying to criticize anybody. Everybody's brain is different. Here's something to think about. How do we arrive at an understanding what everybody wants? I guarantee you, if everybody were able to get together, if every citizen that's against how the government operates currently were to get together and discuss what we actually want, if we all privately thought about it first and wrote it on a piece of paper and then turned all the pieces of paper in, they would all say different stuff. Some of it would be similar. And you would be surprised how many people who are on your side that want things to come to fruition that you disagree with. It's like, oh yeah, well they want this gone and I agree with that, but they want these other three things too. Like, that part's crazy. How do you ever get to a point where we all agree? That's one thing you can contemplate. That's easy. That's not even like a hard concept. Just think about why that's so difficult. Why is that difficult? Write some of your answers down, think about it for an hour, and then go deeper and deeper. Never settle on anything your mind gives you. I need to plug my phone in. I just decided to grab the phone and talk about it. I've been kind of silent on the political side, and I just wanted to get in here and discuss it a little bit. Chop it up, okay? I'm still going to... Now, okay, so now, I said I had a lot of proposals. I've only revealed like two of them. I already forgot what I said because I have ADHD. Obviously thinking about systems, having resources in place if we're going to do something. And then, I forgot what the other one was. But one of the components to what I'm talking about here is to my plan, if we were to become coherent on what we want to do, also is... And this is going to sound woo-woo, and you have to stay with me on this one. Don't let your mind and its emotions and how it feels about what I'm going to say next, don't let it hijack the importance of the structure of what I'm saying. What I'm saying, this next part is going to be very, very important. Okay, so here it is. Spirituality. I'm not talking about listening to Alan Watts videos per se. I'm going to tell you what I mean in a second by spirituality. I don't just mean doing a bunch of yoga, although that's going to be important. What I mean ultimately is, if we can, I've had 10 spiritual awakenings, okay? If we can get people to have that experience, samadhi, enlightenment, awakening, okay? Also known as non-dual awareness, also known as absolute truth, also known as God, the real God, not the guy that Christianity is talking about. Not the guy that atheist straw man. Not that shit, okay? Why is this important? Having this experience is important because if you have it, well, one, this experience will make you face death. You will have to do it. I want you to imagine right now that I've asked you to walk to the edge of the Grand Canyon and jump in without a parachute. Okay? We're talking about an actual experience of 100% psychological death. A lot of people have no idea that spirituality can help you have an experience of 100% psychological death. Why is psychological death important? Because when you die, you're not worried about your body dying. No. You're worried about the entity that is you behind the eyes, that's looking through your eyes, the thing looking at the video from inside the skull. You're worried about that dying. Because whatever that is, that's what you believe you are. That's what you believe you are. You're afraid of that dying. If you were to go to war, the reason a person across from you shooting you with a machine gun is scary to you isn't just because the body is going to receive harm. It's because you believe that thing, that entity that you feel like you are inside the skull looking through the eyes, you feel like that thing is going to shut down. That awareness, the consciousness. You're afraid of nothingness. You're afraid of the end of existence. You're afraid of the end of you. Spiritual awakening will allow you to actually face death and realize, right? And realize that that thing isn't you anyway. Sounds crazy, right? Well, actually, it's not crazy. And the faster you accept that what I just said is the truth, and the faster you go and have that experience, then the faster you will conquer the fear of death, and then the better off you will be grouped up with other humans to change the world. Because what's one of the main reasons people don't want to stand up to their oppressive governments? They're afraid of death. Ultimately, everything boils down to the fear of death. If we didn't care about death, you could literally have 5-year-olds running around changing the world, because they would already be enlightened and they wouldn't care what happened to the body, because they would know that they are actually immortal, which is the truth, by the way. And in order to do that, right, because this is the third point, I think I made 3 points in this video. I've lost track. And I got like 15 points, and I'm not going to be able to talk about all of them in this video. But I want to hear from you guys as well. The reason this point is so important is because if we can conquer the fear of death, this one is a real big one. It seems very insignificant, but it's the most significant point I think that I can make is that one. This would be aligning with truth. You see people on Facebook, on YouTube, everywhere talking about spiritual revolutions, talking about chosen ones, talking about chakras, talking about God's chosen people. God's chosen people is all people. But the only ones who will know they're chosen are the ones that have their enlightenment experience. Jesus is not special. I am not special. Jesus is, did I say Jesus? The Buddha is not special. Okay? Rupert Spira is not special. Deepak Chopra is not special. Monks walking through the United States, Buddhist monks are not special. You can have enlightenment as well. That is not reserved for the Japanese people. It's not reserved for the Indian people. It's not reserved for ayahuasca drinking Native American people. It's also for black people, for gay people, for white people, poor people, sick people, crazy people, ugly people. I've been trying to communicate this for a long time because I am an average, young, black, gay, poor man. Somewhat poor, not poor in the sense that I don't have a house and stuff. All that stuff circumstantial. Listen, the point is that it wasn't until I grew up as a Christian. I did not know that enlightenment was real. Do you know that less than like 30,000 people have achieved this? I could be wrong on the number. It's like I bet it's a stupid low number. I am actually somehow I'm in an elite group of people that have had this experience. I'm talking about an experience of total psychological death, pure non-dual awareness, where I don't even want to say too much because your mind will try to jump it too much, and that's not that's gonna distract you from having the experience. This will be to awaken will be the craziest, most radical, most terrifying, and most amazing thing that you have ever experienced. And I highly suggest that if you care about truth and that you care about actually making changes in the world, that you consider pursuing enlightenment. Check out my channel and my shorts about how you can do that. I have a lot to say, so I'm trying to be concise here. And I'm trying to be as concise as I can. You know, it's rare. I understand that it sounds weird for me to claim that I discovered absolute truth, but let me tell you something. You are the fucking absolute truth. You watching the video, do you understand what I'm saying? What I'm saying is that you are the truth. Not as a woo-woo idea, but as something you can go verify for yourself. Will you do it though? I'm sitting in the house, I'm writing down ideas about how to deal with life right now, how to deal with the government, all the stuff going on, how do we actually get change going? And I can never get away from this obvious point of like, well shit, if people cared about this, they would automatically care about some other stuff. Because when you discover truth, it just blows your mind open to going back into regular life and figuring out how to correct things that people don't realize are hurting them. Like not thinking for themselves. It's like, I'm trying to figure out, how do I help people? Yeah, we can all band together and create a new world, right? All the people talk about that. But wouldn't it be helpful if, instead of just having a group that's led by some enlightened master, right? What if the whole group is enlightened? What if there's 100,000 strong enlightened? What if all of America awakens and becomes enlightened? What if it's not the United States, but it becomes the enlightened states? Because it's ironic, the United States, I can't go there. I can't even go there. See, there's so much to say. That part is super important. I'm just trying to think, was there any, I had 15 points. Some of them I can't see on YouTube. I gotta fix them somehow so that they reach people, so I don't get shadow banned. I might be shadow banned already. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think I mentioned resources. Like if anything's going to be done, we got to make sure that resources are locked down. That means that hospitals have to be cooperating. Like if the people decided they wanted to do anything to create a new world, you need organizations to like work with, like almost all of them. Most of the world would have to agree to just say, fuck it. We're just going to provide whatever is necessary for free until after we get our country and our world the way we want it. And then once we're done, then we can go back to some sort of system. One thing it might be wise to do is to, and this is one of my points, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what you guys are going to decide to do. I don't know what I'm going to ultimately end up deciding to do. I don't know if people are going to be coming together. I don't know if we're just going to stand back and watch people die. I don't know if we're going to be letting the government do what it wants, run a buck. I don't know if we're going to continue to watch Chuck Schumer and the Senate and the House of Representatives and the Supreme Court and the president do what they want and just say, oh, whatever. I don't know if we're going to choose that or if we're going to do something about it. But if we do something about it, it could have consequences. I talked in the beginning of the video about how everything has consequences. Good and bad, in both directions, in infinite directions, every dimension, consequences, okay? Which means that people are already dying. First, recognize that. Second, recognize that you could die. I recognize that I could die. This is why it's important to understand what death is. This is why the awakening is important. You see how it all ties back in? See, the people who avoid the spiritual awakening, because you have to face death if you have a deep, a true awakening, would actually come face to face with this experience of death and be far, far, far more comfortable with it. I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted. The point there being that since there's a possibility you can die, it will probably also bring you comfort to write your will. Okay? That's all I'm going to say, because it's got to 41 minutes in this video. I got to put the rest of my thoughts together because people are going to think I'm trying to do something illegal or wrong or whatever. That is not my intent. My intent ultimately is to do what's right and to take the truest action possible. And if you get nothing else from me, it should become more aligned with truth. Pursue the truth, which is you. You'll, at the end of the day, you will find out that it's you. So don't worry too much about your awakening or death. The real you will be at the end of that. Contemplate things deeply. Forgive people. Take real good care of your neighbors. And by your neighbors, I mean the people in your town, the people in your state, your family, your friends, animals, the nature and the environment. Hey, we fuck up nature, she'll take us out too, Mother Nature. She's trying to take, she's not happy right now. She's delivering a snowstorm on us, so an ice storm or whatever it is. I'm out here sitting in my car. I'm gonna get snowed in this thing if I don't get out. But man, just so much to say. But if you understood what the fuck I was talking about in this video, and the steps that I'm saying that you need to consider, the consequences of systems, the rewards and the consequences of having your own awakening, contemplation, gathering resources, not just for yourself, but like as a team, because this individual shit's not going to work. Personal responsibility is not going to be good enough. Great, you survived alone. You survived the apocalypse. You survived authoritarianism. You survived war or whatever ends up going on. Okay, great, you survived, and then the system just continued to run amok, and then you'll continue to be a victim of that system because you are too afraid to make anything happen. Stop arguing with Trump supporters. Stop arguing with everybody. Stop trying to convince people, and don't worry too much about the logic of your argument, because human beings do not make logical decisions, not actually. And if you contemplated that, you would actually discover that even the logical decisions that even the people more logical than you make are actually secretly emotional decisions, because it's actually an emotional decision to choose a life of logic. The only reason you would choose logic is because it makes you survive better. And survival decisions are fundamentally emotional because the emotions are the human being's operating system for survival. It seems like we make logical decisions, but even the choice to use logic is emotional because it's tied to your survival. All right, I'm going to stop here. I'll see you guys in the next one.